Good morning. I'd like to welcome Skye Blackburn coming to us from Sydney today, who is the owner of the Circle Harvest, which is amazingly edible bugs. So, can we just start, Skye? Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this?
Yeah, well, I'm actually a food scientist and an entomologist, which is a bug scientist. Ever since I was a little kid, I was always into bugs. So I was like that weird kid that had like little jars with bugs on their desk, and I'm sure all the teachers watching today will know who that kid is in their class. And when I went to university, I studied entomology, but in Australia, there's not really a lot of jobs in entomology. And there's always a shortage of food scientists. So I actually did a degree in food science at the same time, just as a backup, so that I would be guaranteed a job when I finished university. But I actually really liked it and it fit in really, really well with my personality. So in the end, I ended up with two degrees that like give me the perfect combination of skills to be an edible insect farmer.
Amazing. So, how did you start your business? And can you explain to us a little bit about Circle Harvest? Because you do ship to New Zealand and you do interact with New Zealand educators and people. So, if you could explain a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, so I started the edible bug shop or Circle Harvest, which is called now, in 2007, which is quite a long time ago now. We actually started as an education company, and we still are an education company, where we go to schools and teach kids all about mini beasts and about different kinds of science topics like chemistry and things like that in a really interactive way through different kinds of incursions. We were doing a education expo, and we wanted something unique to draw people over to our stand to come and talk to us. So I roped my little brother in, who was probably about 15 years old at the time, to make 1,000 of these edible insect lollipops. So they were lollipops with real bugs on the inside. Um, we sold out within like an hour, which was really cool. But the weeks after, I was getting calls from like lolly shops and marketing companies and the newspaper that wanted to know more about these lollipops and wanted to stock them in their store. Um, Being a food scientist, I needed correct nutritional labeling on these lollipops, but 17 years ago, there wasn't a lot of information about the nutritional profile of like crickets and mealworms available on the internet. So I sent away some for nutritional testing. And when I got the results back, I was actually so shocked that no one was eating them as a source of food. They were just so nutrient dense. It had everything that your body needs in this tiny little package. So it was kind of at that moment that I felt I had the perfect combination of skills to convince people that this is a good idea. So the more I learned about edible insects, the more I loved them, and I really just needed to share that with people. So I started Australia's first edible insect farm. We have food products where we make different kinds of foods out of edible insects. And we do have a huge education component in what we do as well. So we do incursions where we teach students all about future foods. Yeah, and it's been a long time, and it's fantastic that we're seeing more and more students, having a fantastic interaction and having a positive experience around these future foods.
It's it's quite like I've said to you before, it's quite confronting. And you do make a range of products. So you've got flowers and different products that you cannot see the insect. Um, but you have got products that you can just straight out eat the insect. What advice would you give, or hints and tips would you give to teachers who would like to try doing this but are too scared?
Well, I don't think it's scary, but if you are a little bit scared, kind of embrace that and have that experience with your students together. You can kind of start with something where, like a cricket protein corn chip, like everybody knows what a corn chip should taste like, and they just taste exactly the same. But it kind of breaks down that mental barrier that you have around, that ick factor around trying an insect, because it just looks and tastes like you would expect. And then you can kind of have a little bit of fun fun and build up to something that might be like a cinnamon churro mealworm or a saltbush and rosemary cricket or something like that. Because it is a fun experience and it will get your students thinking about different ways that they could incorporate insects into their own diet at home or different kinds of products. So there's fantastic learning opportunities in lots of different kinds of curriculum areas.
That's it's so cool. And I think maybe not scary, maybe just confronting might be the better word.
It's challenging. It is challenging for your brain because especially when you're trying something like a whole mealworm, you don't know what to expect. Your brain doesn't have anything to go by, any kind of reference point. So it definitely will freak out. The same as when you're trying any kind of new thing and you've never done it before. But once you try it, and especially with students, like the students will look to the adult in their life. So in a classroom situation, that is their teacher. So if their teacher is giving something a go, then more than likely the students will give something a go as well.
Do you have any funny little stories about when you have done this with kids before? Any sort of funny reactions or
Well,
experiences?
one of the questions that I actually ask when I'm doing any kind of presentation, so not just for schools, but for like I lecture at universities and I do like big events like the Easter show and things like that. And I'll always ask people like, what has anyone tried insects before, and get a few reactions of things that people have tried before. So some people might have gone to like Cambodia and tried like tarantulas before, or some people have tried crickets when they've been to Thailand at like a night market or something like that. But I actually went to a school at Bondi and I asked these year two students, oh, who has tried insects before? And nearly every single student in the class, I was about 80 students altogether, so it was a few classes altogether, had put their hands up. And I thought they didn't understand the question that I was asking to start off with. And I'm like, no, no, guys, I said, who has tried insects before? And they all again put their hands up. And the teacher starts laughing and they said, oh, the shop across the road sells your cricket chips. So they all have it in their lunchbox for school. So
And you weren't
they were
expecting
all,
that.
no, I wasn't, definitely. And it really made me so happy because if they're having it for school, it's something that they really like.
That's awesome. And do you have any plans for the future? Like, where do you see this going,
Yeah,
in 10 years' time?
well, definitely you'll be able to purchase like insect protein products in more and more places as more people kind of get interested in it and want to include alternative proteins in their diet. So you might have noticed like in the supermarkets now they've got like a plant-based meat section. We've actually just approved cellular-based meats for human consumption in Australia and New Zealand, which is fantastic. So you'll see that on supermarket shelves really shortly. So you're seeing more and more options for alternative proteins, and insects will be one of those options that you'll be able to get in the regular supermarket.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it just seems crazy. That's so cool. And there is obviously lots of countries in the world that do eat insects, and it's not a new thing. I guess it's just this, it's definitely a new thing for the mainstream supermarket to.
Yeah, definitely. But when you think about, most people think like, something like Fear Factor or I'm a celebrity, get me out of here or something like that when they're thinking about eating insects, but that's just not the case. We're thinking about them more as an ingredient in familiar foods that you would eat all the time anyway. They're just enriched with invisible insect protein. So you're adding protein, you're adding calcium and iron and amino acids and all these essential micronutrients and vitamin B12 just by adding a little bit of cricket protein powder to something like a pasta or a cereal or a bread, or the possibilities are really endless. So
Yeah.
it's all about making kind of like a switch. So instead of eating a bag of your regular corn chips, which are just really hollow calories, it's not really doing anything for your body, you can swap that for a nutrient dense cricket protein corn chip, which has as much protein as an egg in there. You're getting 40% of your calcium for the day, 40% of your iron, all of your amino acids. So you're really nourishing your body. And when we're talking about food security, that's really important, is not wasting food. We want to eat smaller portions of nutrient dense local foods.
And this is like maybe an odd question, but do you, there's two questions actually. if people wanted to buy these products, is there problems getting them over into New Zealand because they're an insect byproduct?
No, so the species, Australia and New Zealand share food standards. So we can import products into New Zealand through the post in small quantities quite easily, as long as we're compliant with the Australian and New Zealand food standards, which we are because we're in Australia.
Oh, cool.
So there's three species of insect that are approved as safe for human consumption for Australia and New Zealand, which is a cricket and two species of mealworms, which are the insects that we would farm.
Oh, cool. And is there any like if you've got kids with food allergies or anything, can they still eat these things?
Yeah, so we do warn people that insects and shellfish are actually really closely related and they share a lot of similar proteins. So people that have like a shellfish or a chitin allergy shouldn't try edible insects. And we do have some customers that do have a shellfish allergy that eat them quite easily.
Mhm.
But when we're speaking to schools, we'd say that if you know that a student has a shellfish allergy, we'd probably not recommend that you would have a tasting situation with that student.
Yeah.
Um, but really, it would be up to the parents whether that's something that they would want to do or not.
Oh,
We haven't had any recorded cases of that, but just because until there's more research done into it, we just like to warn people, and it is on all of our labeling as well. So all of our packages that will come to you will have full nutritional labeling, including an allergen statement saying about the shellfish allergy.
oh, awesome. Cool. Yeah, I just was suddenly thinking, how would that work? But and also everybody's quite different and their level of allergies are quite different as well, right? So
Yeah.
you can't control everything. So how can New Zealand educators get you in our classrooms? What can we do?
Well, we actually do virtual incursions all around New Zealand. So we would send some delicious edible insect samples to your classroom ahead of time. And we connect over Zoom, just the way that we're doing right now. Your students will get to be able to speak to one of our farm staff, and all of our educators are either like microbiologists or food scientists or robotic engineers. The list goes on and on, really. So we pick the best person for the curriculum outcomes that you're currently studying, and we develop some activities that we can do with the students that help keep it really, really interactive, and they get to try some delicious edible insects as well.
That's cool. So if we wanted to do that, would we head over to your website?
Yeah, if you just head over to our website and have a look, send us an email, and then each one of our incursions is completely customized to your students. So you're not getting a recording, you're getting an actual person that's developing that program specifically for you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Skye. That's so interesting. Like I said, if I was in the classroom, I would definitely be doing this. I think this is so cool. And I really think kids would be really open to it, actually, and
I I
enjoy
think so
it.
as well. I think children are actually more open to it than adults give them credit for. I think that mainly it's the adults that have these hang-ups about trying new foods, but especially like primary school students and like early like teen kind of students, they're actually really, really excited to try something new. And it kind of fits into like science or English or technology or social studies or health. So, or cooking if you're doing like food technology. So there's lots and lots of possibilities for where this fits with your students.
Oh, that's awesome. Right. Well, thank you so much, Skye. It's been really nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Have a good day.